What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be doing an unboxing of the Holosun HS507c. This is the X2 version. The X2 kind of delineates the difference between the version 1, the V2, and then this being the X2. The differences are the version before this, the V2, the buttons that would control your brightness settings were vertical on here, much like the Trigicons. I think the RMR is like that. So much like that they, I believe, got sued by Trigicon, and so they had to switch and go back to the buttons being side by side. It's similar to the version 1, however these buttons are larger and a little easier to press. The other difference between the three is that the version 2 and the X2, they both have the battery tray on the opposite side. I don't know if there's a picture on here or not. There it is. They have the battery tray here. The version 1, you have to access the battery from underneath. So they did go to a smaller battery, the CR1632, in order to be able to accomplish having the battery tray on the side. The version 1 has the 2032, which will give you, I believe it's 100,000 hours of battery life, and then this one is good for 50,000 hours because, like I said, they went to the smaller battery so that you can change it from the side as opposed to having to remove the entire optic from the pistol or firearm to access the battery to switch it out. Then you have to re-zero the gun, which was kind of annoying. So as you can see on the box, there is 3 different reticle settings: the dot, the circle, and the circle dot. There are different modes: the auto, the manual, the lockout. Now this is kind of what is one of the bigger differences in this one versus the V2, the version 2, is that there's an adjustment setting. So there's auto adjust, manual adjust, and then the lockout setting. So the lockout setting essentially locks these buttons. I believe you hold down the one of the brightness buttons and then locks it so that you can't accidentally push the minus button and hold it down and then shut the optic off altogether. So I think is a feature that should be standard. I'm not really sure why it's not. But anyway, so they fixed it on this version. I haven't seen anybody complain about the V2s with accidentally shutting it off, but I would just assume you would have that kind of a lockout setting on an optic, but maybe not on all of them, obviously. So let's open it up and take a look. That's nice. Little etched piece of glass, the Holosun logo on it. That's pretty cool. Owner's manual goodies. The cleaning cloth. Some silica gel. Put that in my pile of other silica gel packets that I've gotten. So this is the little tool that you're going to use to access the battery tray on the other side of the optic here. So let's pop this out and take a look. So it does come with a Picatinny rail. However, this is going to go on my P10C pistol, which I'm going to be doing a series about. The series is just going to cover the switch from standard iron sights to a red dot carry, or excuse me, to a red dot optic for a carry firearm. So it does just kind of pop right off of there. There's some screws that obviously would hold it in there, but I think when they shipped it, they just set it in there. There we go. So it would sit flush, or a little more flush, on the slide of the firearm. So Holosun is really big on the solar panels that they put on these. You'll see a lot of their optics have not only obviously the battery power to them, but they also have the solar power. That's great for 2 reasons for me. Is that one, you are conserving power by having the solar whenever you're shooting outside during the daytime. Obviously you're going to be able to use or pick up some of that solar power in there. And if you didn't have a battery in there, I believe it would still work because it would function off that solar power. But then obviously if your battery were to fail on you, and not just because it runs out, but batteries are, you know, prone to have issues. They can rupture, or you just have a bad battery in general, depending on what quality you got. And you might not realize that and go to use the firearm and you don't have any power to it, but then you have the backup that gets picked up by solar. So I think that's great that Holosun has that two system power kind of fail safe in place. That way you're kind of double covered in terms of always having that dot available and not having to transition back to irons. So it looks like it also ships with the screws to mount. There are some longer screws and some shorter screws. I would assume these longer ones probably are what would attach the optic to this Picatinny rail mount, and then your shorter screws are probably for attaching the optic to a pistol slide. Okay guys, so I got this thing out, did get it powered up. To power it up, you just hit one of the brightness buttons on the side here and it will turn on. And right out of the gate, I noticed something that I didn't like about it, which is the auto brightness feature. So I'm inside my house right now, obviously, and I was kind of looking through it, and it was a little dim, but it wasn't anything crazy. And then I'm sitting in front of a window right now at my house, and I kind of just held the optic up outside to see what it would look like against, you know, kind of a brightly lit area, and the reticle itself was way too dim. So I think what is occurring is that the optic itself is picking up the ambient light from inside of the house, which is obviously different from what it is outside of the house. So, I mean, are you going to be shooting from inside to outside often with this? Maybe not, probably not. But if you were inside of a car and somebody was outside your vehicle and you needed to engage that threat, that might be an issue. I mean, and it's not limited to say that you're never going to shoot from inside to outside, but I did just notice that on auto, when I looked out kind of in the yard there, it was way too dim, like concerningly dim, not usable, or almost not usable. So it's fine. It's not a big deal. I kind of knew this was an issue that some folks had in reading up on it. So in order to fix that, you just take it out of auto mode and into manual. And to do that, you just press down the plus button for 3 seconds, and then your reticle will blink if you're looking through it. And then you can adjust your brightness to whatever you would want it to be. So I've got mine set where I would like it for both outside and for inside. So I'm going to go ahead and take it from manual mode to lock mode. And to do that, same thing, you hold down the plus button and your reticle should blink. There it is. And so now it is in lockout. So even if I press the dim button on here, it won't do anything. Like if I accidentally pressed it, it's not going to dim or get brighter or anything like that. It's going to stay the same brightness, which is great. Also, guys, by the way, the dot that you're seeing right now through the camera lens, that is not what the actual reticle looks like. That's an issue with, I guess, the holographic itself and how the camera reacts to it. So that would look like a massive pumpkin-sized dot on your target. It's not. In fact, this is actually the reticle that I have pulled up, or that I have it on right now, is the 32 MOA circle and the 2 MOA dot. I think it's picking up just a halo of the 32 MOA, which is making it look huge right now, but it's not, trust me. So I've got that set how I like it, which is great. And just to give you guys a heads up, you know, if you are looking to leave it in a particular mode, I would recommend going to manual, find the brightness that you like for both indoor and outdoor, set it, and then put it into the lockout mode. Okay guys, the last couple things that I wanted to go over here real quick is it's about kind of the settings on here. So one thing, just a heads up, so if you do go into that lockout mode, to exit it, you're going to do the same thing, which is hold down that plus button for 3 seconds and it's going to blink. But heads up, that's not going to put it back into manual mode, that's going to put it into auto mode. So then you'd have to cycle back to manual and then back to lockout if you were ever making any type of changes. So this also, you can adjust or change the reticle from the dot and circle to just the dot to then just the circle. You do that by pressing the minus button on here and holding that down. So if you didn't like the larger reticle, you could drop down to just the dot or vice versa. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on was the shake awake technology, which Holosun, I don't know if they're probably not the first company to do this, but they're definitely known for having this feature, whereas some red dots do not, which is if the optic is not moving or it's still for 10 minutes on this setting, you can actually change it to an hour. I think there's another setting as well, but I know you can at least change it to an hour, maybe 2 hours. But out of the box, if it's sitting for 10 minutes and doesn't move, it will shut off. And then as soon as it senses any movement, it turns back on again, which is a great feature to have, especially in a defensive handgun or defensive rifle or anything that you plan to trust your life to. That way you don't pull up your firearm and you don't have a dot because you forgot to hit it because you're under stress. So very cool, very cool. So that's one of the biggest features that I like about it is the shake awake, and then also that solar fail-safe technology. And so that shake awake is actually one of the bigger reasons why I picked this reticle. In fact, I think I'm going to be replacing the red dot that is on one of my AR platforms with a Holosun just to get that shake awake feature. And then also, like I said, that solar backup or solar failsafe is a really cool feature as well. Another big reason why I picked the Holosun over other competitors, and why I think I'm going to be replacing some of the other dots that I have with Holosun products. But we will see as I kind of put it through its paces. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be putting this on my CZ P10C, and I'm going to be doing a series of videos. The next one will be about how to sight in your red dot. So look forward to that, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, drop them down below. Try to get to those as soon as I can. And as always, keep shooting.